used hers, so mine completely was never used until I got Orlea, and then, now I use it all the time. Hi, everybody.
Happy stream.
Happy stream day. Yeah.
First stream of the year for us.
Yep. It's been a while. We have had a lot of craziness going on, and so we definitely appreciate all of your patience and sticking with us. And we're now streaming from a completely different location, and so there might be some bumps and growing pains along the way, but we're going to do the best we can. And today we are going to be working on some detail line work and some coloring for this. I'll zoom out a little so you guys can see her. For this superhero design of Oriella. She is going to, the bust that is already colored is actually going to be available as one of the Patreon pins this month. And then we are hoping to have her available as a print for PowerCon, which we will be at. When is PowerCon, Ranger?
PowerCon is the 15th of February, March. I was looking at the wrong calendar.
So Ranger will be at PowerCon. We will both be at a GamaCon.
No, I was right. 14th of March.
Yeah. We'll both be at a GamaCon, I believe, the week before.
Yes, the 7th and 8th.
Yeah. Of March. And then Ranger will be manning PowerCon. And so we are hoping to have her available as a print, the full body one at PowerCon, and hopefully even a full set of the cast in this theme for Heroes Con, which we will be going to in June. But what you see here before you is going to be one of the pins for February, kind of to celebrate PowerCon and the themes there,
and just they're going to be pretty rad pins.
Yes, that is also true. I have actually had a lot of fun so far working on designs for everybody as like a superhero and or villain and or anti-hero or what have you. Just because it's fun to take into account like what people's magic powers translate to in terms of superpowers, or what people's abilities and strengths translate to in terms of... Asha, shush! No.
Sorry, that's my dog. She's overly excited.
Did Kristen just go home?
Yeah.
We'll be right back, guys. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'll let everybody get settled in. So yeah, we will be at Heroes Con in June, and hopefully we will have a full set of these available as prints. And like I said, it's been kind of interesting and fun to translate people's abilities into what they would mean in the comic book universe, which I'm fairly familiar with. Or at least I used to be. I used to read a lot of comics. Not caught up anymore, but you know, I know enough.
I've never read a lot of superhero comics, but I've read a lot of like alternative and Dark Horse comics, especially Hellboy. Yeah, I love Dark Horse. I think
Dark Horse is super underrated. Like a lot of what they do is just amazing and actually typically credited to DC, sadly.
Right.
Kind of like every animated movie in the 90s that featured a female main character is a Disney movie.
Right.
Which is not true.
It's not true.
My sister actually used to work at Disney World, and she had a lady get in like a straight up screaming fight with her that they didn't have Anastasia dolls. And my sister was like, I'm sorry, but Anastasia isn't a Disney princess. And she's like, well, she's a princess and a Disney character. And she's like, no, she's not a Disney character.
She's not.
She's not.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
You can't fight about that. It's just the truth.
Don Bluth, published by DreamWorks, like, she's not a Disney character. And same thing with Thumbelina. Everybody thinks Thumbelina is Disney. And,
I mean, it's pretty Disney-esque, but, you know, it's not.
But if you actually, like, sit down and watch it, like... to be fair, most people don't really pay that much attention to the art in kids' movies, but, like, it's so different. And... but that's the thing is like everything from like 1980 to like 2005 that was animated was a Disney movie, right, according to the general public. So which,
couldn't be further from the truth.
No, in fact, a lot of my favorite animated movies are not Disney. Now that is not to say I do not love Disney movies, because I fucking do. And my favorite movie of all time is a Disney movie. In fact, several of them are. But The Road to El Dorado is magical and absolutely not Disney. And Titan AE is amazing and not Disney.
Fire and Ice is amazing and not Disney. Oh, wait. That's not what we're talking about.
Also Fire and Ice 70s.
Yeah, that was much earlier, yeah.
It's much earlier. Frank Frazetta stuff.
I was just thinking of great animation that's not Disney.
That's no. And I'm not 100% sure you can call it great animation.
It was a great animation. It's not great animation.
Okay,
right.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep.
Don't go looking for Fire and Ice with your conservative parents or children around.
No, go looking for Fire and Ice when you're alone and you want to be confused and a little bit aroused. Like, Amazon Prime has it, I think, for like $3, and it's worth it. It's worth every penny. And frankly, if you want to have a great night that no one will understand and will make all your friends probably hate you, double feature it back to back with the anime movie Redline. Because those are both their own monsters and they're both absolute treats. And I'm not saying either of them are good, but they're both awesome.
There's a link for anybody who wants to see the trailer. And don't judge me for using Bing. I have to in this situation. Oh, wow. Never mind. The link that they generated me is 600 characters, which exceeds the limit that you can put in a comment. I'll be right back with the link.
Thanks, Bing. There is no other search engine besides Google, and if there were, the only way we would know is to Google it. Friggin' love John Oliver. But yeah, so comic books haven't been like a huge part of my life since I was a kid, but I'm weird in how I keep up with things. Like, if I like something, a lot of times I know I don't have the time to dedicate necessarily to reading it all. So what I'll do is I'll, like, follow it via the spoilers that exist on the internet or the wiki or something. That's how I finished Naruto, because I fell in love with Naruto when I was in high school, because that's when it came out and that's what everyone was into. But then by the time Shippuden came out, I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. But I also kind of a little bit still wanted to know, so I just started following the episode spoilers and then reading the wiki, and, you know, then it didn't end for like 10 more years, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty glad I didn't see this through to the end. And that's, you know, I'm not hating on Naruto. It has some excellent qualities.
It is awfully long,
but it is one of the longest shonen anime, and that is saying something. It is dwarfed, I think, only by One Piece and Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z is monstrous.
Yeah,
in every way.
and One Piece is monstrous as well, but One Piece is a much more cohesive story, even through its 700 episodes, than Naruto or Bleach are in their like 300 episodes. And I think it's because Eiichiro Oda wrote way ahead, whereas Tite Kubo was diagnosed with cancer and was like, yeah, I'm gonna get maybe 4 books out of me before I die, and now he's still writing. So, yeah. And then I think the author of Naruto got trapped in a like 15-year contract with Shonen Jump. So where he wanted to end the story went out the window.
Well, yeah, it wasn't 15 years later.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of the things that I think makes Dark Horse a good comic publisher, is they at least on the ones I've read, they kind of give a lot of freedom. They don't have a lot of requirements.
Yeah.
You know, like Mike Mignola, the creator of Hellboy, he does all sorts of stuff, and his stuff is not what you'd expect a lot of the time.
No.
And it's pretty cool, though. It's pretty rad, everything he does. And Hellboy is just super rad. I love everything I've ever read, but each book is pretty different.
Yeah. And then there's a Dark Horse comic, and it got adapted into a video game, and I can't remember. I think it's literally called The Darkness. I'm not 100% sure. I'm losing all my street cred right here in this one sentence. But it's basically about a mobster who like makes a deal with a demon, and the demon helps him like raise himself up in the mob world and yada yada. Well, anyway, the video game is very famous for not being that good, but having an incredibly unique gameplay aspect of quadruple wielding pistols, because you have 2 shadow arms that are given to you by the demon, and the books themselves. And I could be wrong about this. I have not actually read the comics. I picked up like the first one at a Barnes & Noble one time, and I was like, oh, this is that game, because I worked at GameStop, so everything was either related to a game or I didn't know what it was, because that was all I was allowed to know. But from what I understand, that comic actually concludes with like a crossover with DC, where he meets Batman, and Batman's like,
what?
Quit your shit. And he's like, and he's been apparently like struggling with the demon and trying to get rid of it anyway. So he decides that, you know what, if Batman said it, it's probably right.
Probably legit.
And so there's a Dark Horse Comics version of Batman who's even more ripped and terrifying than regular Batman.
Well, of course.
And it's just pretty rad.
That reminds me of a D&D character my brother made, who was a Thri-Kreen gunslinger.
Nice.
And if you don't know what a Thri-Kreen is, they are a mantis person. And so they have 2 legs they walk on and 4 arms that they use. And they can jump really far, and they're really tough and fast. And
also, they eat the heads of their lovers.
Well, mantises.
Hey, you have to sacrifice some things.
But it was a shout out to my brother. He was the GM for a what's it called? A Deadlands D20 campaign, and I was a mad scientist, and it was an NPC he made in a secret Confederate research base where they were creating monsters to fuel the Civil War, and this Thri-kreen was their masterpiece, and we set it free, and it was mad. It was mad, and so
legit.
And my brother was like, "This fight's gonna be really tough," and there were Gatling guns and a whole bunch of dudes, and our posse was beat up from trying to get in there and set this thing free. And then he was like, "But I made this character. You guys can use him now because he's on your side. You set him free and convinced him that he should help you get out of here." And so then we proceeded to murder every single person in there with this OP Thri-kreen. It turns out when you quadruple someone's ability to shoot in a single round, it's then they can jump to wherever they need to be to get the person out of cover, because cover was really important. And so it was a good time. Those Gatling guns were no big deal after that.
Seems legit.
Yeah, it was. But Thri-kreen, it just reminds me of being able to shoot 4 guns at a time.
Right.
Is really, really good, because it turns out
approves.
just putting more firepower out than your enemy is usually how you win.
Yes. Which is why I think most of our group wasn't very good at Savage Worlds.
Well, yeah, that's probably true.
I mean,
when everybody did their role, actually it worked pretty well.
Yeah.
It required everyone to do their role.
It did, and the thing is that was the campaign that I was like, this is it, Morgan. This is the one time I am not going to make a character who's going to be the freaking leader. I'm going to make the most antisocial, horrendous human being who doesn't want anything to do with anyone and is going to be a sniper and just sit up in the corner and do their damn job, and then no one else would do their job, and I ended up taking over. And not only...
But then she fell in love.
Right, and she fell in love with the medic, and then that all just went right straight to hell.
In the part 2, though, everyone understood why everyone died, and then it went a lot better.
Yep, because then I immediately assumed the role of leader. And
no one resisted filling their role,
Yeah. And we had Isaiah.
And Isaiah was just a murder hobo.
Who threw knives harder than an AK-47 bullet.
I mean, yeah. Turns out sometimes bringing a knife to a gunfight is the correct answer.
Yep.
When you're Isaiah.
Yep.
I could hear the... my wife played Isaiah. I can hear her cackling in the background.
Right. So, I played this, deaf kid who had all the charisma in the world and was a mechanic and not very good at shooting, but she did occasionally get a good shot in, and one of them was a big bad evil guy, and she just pumped that dude full of AK-47 bullets, and he was still standing, and then along comes Isaiah and just throws a knife in his back, and she just murders him. And she's like, well,
Would you like to comment on Isaiah?
I love my murder hobo.
So does Rosa.
And I hope Joe loves my murder hobo.
Joe will never admit whether or not she loves your murder hobo, but she hasn't killed you or him for touching her daughter, so...
No kill for Joe equals tolerant / maybe...
And tolerance is as good as love!
Tolerance is as good as love.
Unless you're Liliana.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyway, yeah. We play more than just D&D. We play all sorts of systems, but primarily D&D.
Yeah. And primarily 3.5 because we're neckbeards.
Well, it's super versatile, and I have so much experience with it.
Yep.
But sometimes you just need a good old XCOM Savage Worlds.
to make all of your players acutely aware of how much they can die.
Yes.
And sometimes you just need to lock them in a fairy house to make them acutely aware of how much they can die.
That is also true.
And then be like, it's cool though, because your dad can just cast True Resurrection and then suck all his cleric levels out of him just a session away.
I mean, Ario can cast Resurrection, is not too far from true. And Nerida can cast it.
That is not the point. Oh, goodness. So, yeah. Anyway, superheroes, and also, I'm sorry, guys, I zoom in and out willy-nilly like a lunatic, and I try to do that less on streams, and I'm figuring out that I'm not doing that less because I keep glancing over at Ranger's monitor and seeing it zoom in and out a bunch, but,
she has the zoomies.
I do. And this screen that I stream on is much smaller than the one I'm used to working on at home, and like away from my face. So to get lines accurately, I have to kind of like move around a lot, and
yes, and
you know,
we did try to stream from where our super wonderful
good equipment is,
art machine is, but unfortunately that just simply won't work out, which is part of why we haven't been able to stream for weeks.
Yeah, because we've been trying to make that happen.
We miss you guys and we love you, and thanks for being here this time.
Yes.
Well, it looks like as I said that I am the only one here now watching, but
okay, fine. Well, you know what? Thank you for being here.
Right. But I'm sure everyone will watch these later because, you know, they're wonderful and we love you.
Yes. We love our peeps. And, yeah, we're always looking forward to cons and stuff. We've actually had a lot more success with getting into cons than we kind of thought we would initially. And
so far, we've always made our money back. So there's that.
It's literally been once, but, you know.
I was just being hopeful.
Yeah.
But we made our money back at a really slow con that was more expensive than the ones we're going to, and smaller.
So hopefully cons are going to be a good investment and are going to give us a lot more chances to interact with fans and meet new people. Because I will say this of Atomicon, it was so fun, all the people that we met there. They were super cool, and we made a lot of cool contacts.
And I think we'll make even more of these future cons.
Yep. And so basically as long as cons are within our personal budgets and hopefully eventually our Patreon budget, you know, we'll keep going to them.
Yes, and a note on that, I think what would be interesting, or what we should probably say, is that we're going to cons out of our pocket.
Yeah.
And on our Patreon there is a goal that says, you know, once we hit this goal we'll start going to cons, but what I think people should note with that is we'll start going to cons that are not in our immediate area.
Yeah.
Once we hit that goal, we'll start asking patrons, hey, where do you guys want us to go?
Yeah. And that would be awesome. Just gotta conquer a few fears. So, you know, between the therapy and the Patreon goals, eventually
we hope Bard and I
cons.
will all be at all of them, but, you know, I mean, it may not both be at all of them, but that doesn't necessarily be a bad thing.
PowerCon is sadly the day of an update, so I will be here working on making sure the comic goes up, and Ranger will be manning the booth alone at PowerCon.
I mean,
so I'll miss you guys. But
2 weeks is a lot, and you know we got to make sure we get all our stuff for our patrons and all our updates and our art out.
Yeah, because that is the primary goal, actually. And you know, as much as the cons are fun and we like to go out and meet people, and I always personally like to see people's reaction to the art, and that's just because I'm like constantly curious, you know, what other people are gonna observe. And like I said, I think in a previous stream, like it was hugely validating for me to have people purchasing our Shale prints, because Shale was one of the characters I was more nervous designing because I don't have as much experience designing characters who are... I mean, she's an elf, but she's very clearly, African American based, and
she's a person of color.
Yeah, and I like to be able to represent minorities in terms of the art, and not just race, but also, sexuality and this, that, and the other. But everybody who purchased actually a Shale print was a minority, so I was like, whoa, clearly I did a good, right? And it's interesting because I've seen a lot of really bad opinions of white artists designing minority characters, which I think is really, really dumb and bad and just creates even more isolation. But it happened even when the new Pokemon games came out. The water gym leader, there was some dissent on Twitter about how, like, Asian people shouldn't design black characters, and neither should, like, white people, and, like, people should only design characters of their own race. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, the vast majority of people currently creating cartoons, I think, are mostly white
or
Korean. And so if you want literally anyone but white or Korean cartoon characters, that's a horrible mindset to have.
And I mean, if you're creating someone from a race that you are not, and you fetishize and
use horrible stereotypes to represent.
That's horrible. That's wrong. But it's not to say that you can't do it respectfully and using input from those communities. Well, I mean, that's the internet is supposed to bring us all together.
And it doesn't. But
it's supposed to, right?
But just
got a lot of resources
the truth of the matter is, like, I feel like I'm gonna end up getting Scarlett Johansson butchered here, but, like, as an artist, I frankly am in a position, not culturally, but through my ability to draw, to represent any race. I mean, I know what people of different races look like. I am familiar with facial structures.
Right, but through study and exposure, right?
Yeah.
Not just because you're white,
Right, exactly.
And that's what I think the problem is that some people are like, it doesn't matter, I can draw it however I want. I don't have to be respectful of actual anatomy and facial structures that vary across races.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is like, and that's not to say that, you have to follow every typical facial feature of a minority race.
But you do need to know the basics, so that
but you need to know them.
Of it.
Well, and the truth is that all spins back to what I'm constantly ranting about, is that you have to understand anatomy to do art.
Right.
Like, I just can't express enough how much you have to understand anatomy to do art. And
well, it was like we had a friend that was trying to draw her female character, and she just couldn't get the breasts right. But she was too embarrassed to look at naked boobs to see what they look like and see the anatomy to get it right.
Which I think is really funny because she's a girl.
Well, yeah, and she's a girl, and so, but that's what she needed to do, but it was too embarrassing.
Yep.
But that's the only way to be able to draw them, even clothed right.
Right. Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day,
you need to know what they do and what they look like.
Yep. At the end of the day, you can bend the rules however you want to, but you have to know them first. And that is something that a lot of people struggle with, and I have straight up been told by a kid who wanted to be a cartoonist and was in one of my art classes, you don't need to know anatomy to do art. And his art reflected that opinion very strongly. That's all I will say. If you look at even famous cartoonists who do stuff that has nothing to do with human anatomy, like the people who do Warner Brothers cartoons, okay? Like, they all took master classes in human anatomy. Right. They all went and sat in front of a naked person and painted them for an hour, I mean, the truth of the matter is that the fundamentals are there for a reason, and they're the fundamentals for a reason.
And that's why they improve art when they're mastered. Even if that art doesn't reflect them perfectly.
Yep.
Or, should I say, with fidelity.
Yep. I mean, it's just like like Disney characters, like people all the time like to bitch about Disney characters not being realistic or whatever, but they're stylistically chosen to be a certain way, and if the artists did not understand basic anatomy, I can't express to you how ungodly and terrifying Disney characters would be.
Right. And they know what to exaggerate to make attractive, just like superhero comics.
Yes. I was going to not get into that so that I didn't shit on superhero comics.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's enhanced in certain ways to appeal to a certain crowd, a particular aesthetic of their audience. Yep. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, but most women don't look like this.
No. And in fact...
And spandex doesn't really even act like that.
No. And your clavicle doesn't belong all the way up here. And it doesn't... You know what? It doesn't matter.
But it's attractive.
It is attractive. And the thing with Disney princesses is that
it's attractive.
Well, they are attractive, but also they're cute.
Yeah, they're cute.
And it's because their heads are
and eyes and
are everything. 4 times bigger than they should be. Mm-hmm. But you have to understand the proportion of a regular person. You have to understand that a regular person is about 8 heads tall or whatever to know where to squish to allow for that bigger head, right? So, Disney princesses, if they just had a really big head, would look really weird. It's not just that they have a really big head. I mean, they do. But they also balance it out with other things, like tons of hair that makes the head not look so crazy.
Yeah, if you look at some of the older animation, their heads look a little small.
Mm-hmm.
And they hadn't moved all the way into that style yet.
Yep.
Which has only gotten not worse, but more exaggerated
with the CGI.
Yeah, with
for
the
sure.
CGI.
But when Walt was doing most of the production, so the first two, so Aurora and Sleeping Beauty, it's not as prominent. Sleeping Beauty just has different body proportions in general because she was based on an art style in the 40s that was almost pinup inspired, or the 30s, but
yeah.
So she just has kind of different body proportions in general until they redesigned her to match the rest of the princesses. And Aurora is quite a bit more angular because that was the style then. And then in the 90s is when they hit their stride of their own style period, and this is just what it was going to look like. But Ariel is an especially good example of the Disney princess who it is very stark in, because she, through most of the film, is naked and tail. And so she doesn't have all the dress and stuff to counteract how small her body is and how big her head is. And that's one of the reasons why her hair is so voluminous all the time, is to kind of distract from the fact that the rest of her isn't there. And people complain all the time about how Disney princesses' hips look. Well, they don't actually have hips. They have the illusion of hips created by shortening the torso and putting ribs against pelvis, essentially. Mm-hmm. But the reason they do that isn't actually just to hypersexualize their characters. It's because you have to shorten them some to make up for their head making up more space.
They look like a bobble.
Yes. Because if you don't shorten their body at all with the head taking up twice as much as it should, then it's just really weird. And, every Disney artist, especially directors, they're all extremely good at normal human and animal anatomy, and they all know exactly what they're doing. And, you can like it or you cannot. I personally like it a lot, and I own several art classes by Aaron Blaise, and I admire him a lot, and he's a really cool guy. And Glenn Keane is also a really cool guy, and I wish they would have left the Tangled movie to him and not messed with it. But anyway, so every style of art exaggerates things in their own way.
Right. Well, every art has an audience.
Right.
Which is not everyone in the world.
Yes. And just like anime... Wow, I'm really I don't like putting this many lines in hair. And so the struggle is real. And I don't have an eraser on the back of the thing. Sorry, I'm also working with brand new equipment that I just took out of the box like 20 minutes ago, so we're having some struggles today. But, like anime exaggerates things in a lot of ways.
Yes, indeed.
And some of them...
And it varies widely across the anime, too.
Yes. Like, the movie we were talking about earlier, Redline, it exaggerates crazy shit like inertia effects.
Right.
Like, obviously all the characters' bodies are crazy, but, like, the main dude has, like, super gangly arms, and, like, a lot of the characters are aliens, so they're just all over the place, but the thing it exaggerates the most is, like, it's a racing movie, right? So it's all about, like, the speed, and, at some point, like, a character's going so fast that, like, their eyelids peel back and stuff, and you're just like...
What?
Okay, but that's not exactly how physics do... Okay, fine. You know what?
And then,
I am really enjoying this movie, so I'll shut up.
And Dragon Ball Z exaggerates other things completely. Like,
and
those men should be eating constantly to maintain that muscle mass.
Right, and Goku's the only one who does.
Yeah.
And it's a joke that he does.
Yes.
Now, I can't say anything about that because I have a 320-pound vegan paladin who's almost built like Goku, but you know what?
He's at least got good berries.
He's got good berries and fairy to live on. But yeah, and that's the thing is, actually, anime characters having huge spiky hair is a trend that was started by Akira Toriyama, the guy who created Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. And it was to balance out how tiny his characters' heads looked when he put them on all that muscle. Because he basically just creates different muscles that don't exist to put on top of other muscles.
More muscle, more better.
Right? And I mean, a little bit. Please, Brawly, crush my head between your thighs. Anyway, but so what ended up happening is he had these dudes that were shaped like this and then had heads like this. And they looked more like a bread box than a person, so he gave them crazy hair.
And suddenly it balances out.
That's why in Dragon Ball Z...
And that's why Super Saiyan hair gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes, because they get bigger. And so in Dragon Ball Z, you'll notice female characters all have, like, super sleek, flat hair, which was just generally how hair was done in most forms of anime up until that point.
Yeah, like Yu Yu Hakusho and all that.
Mm-hmm. But then all the dudes have really crazy hair, and it's because the women do not have muscles on muscles on muscles on muscles. Even the super fit women, even the new female Super Saiyan, like
I remember,
it's not the same.
I remember my friend Kai, he's like, I love Yu Yu Hakusho, and we need to watch it, and we did. And I was like, something looks weird about these apparently 9th graders. He's like, oh yeah, they are grown men 9th graders in school uniforms.
Yes.
Those are not 9th grade bodies.
No, and anime is
and there's nothing wrong with that,
Anime comes under a lot
especially Kuwabara, man, like he's
holy shit.
He's not
he's ripped.
Yeah.
And terrifying. Well, and the thing is that anime is nowadays anime comes under a lot of fire for that. Because the thing is...
But it knows its audience.
Yeah. And the thing is that Japan... School stories and high school and college age kids, which, by the way, high school starts for Japan at a different age than it does for us. And is non-mandatory.
It's very different.
It's just a very different culture. And also, like... So, for America, writing a young adult story or a young adult romance that's aimed at people who are, like, just getting out of school, you're writing about a character who's between 17 and 19, usually. Writing for that audience in Japan, you're writing about somebody who is between 13 and 16, usually. Like, that's why the...
And if they're 19, they're an adult.
Yeah, they're
parental figure.
Yes.
Like Urza in Fairy Tail.
Yeah, or in One Piece, Robin is the old lady character who's like 20-something. And
not an old lady.
No. I'm pretty sure she's younger than I am. But, everyone on the U.S. side of things, everyone's like, yeah, but
sorry,
they're 13.
We just had a brief interruption, but we should be back now.
That's okay. I probably didn't need to be caught saying what I was saying anyway. But yeah, so it's definitely... It's one of those things, like, when I was a kid and I first started reading Naruto, I would never have pegged those kids for 12. Like, I was, I think, 14 when I started reading. I thought they were all, like, 16, 17. Like, I was reading a story about, like, cool older kids. Because they don't...
Nope.
Yeah, and I was like, what do you mean they're 12?
Well, they don't look 12. And...
No, and, well, because characters aren't designed to look that way, but they're aged that way... Because
of the culture
they're created in, and
but they're designed to be appealing to everybody.
Yep, and they are. But yeah, so I mean, every form of art has its own exaggerations. With DC, it's people's abs.
Yeah, the abs do all the fighting.
They do. I mean, and also women, by the way, according to DC Comics, have the exact same muscular structure as men, except
real men, because they don't have the same muscular structure as the DC Comic.
Well, no. So the average DC Comics woman looks like a ripped as shit human man, but with boobs that are just as ripped as the rest of her body and
right.
And stay completely in one place always because they are nothing but muscle, apparently. Muscle squeezed into spandex that perfectly shapes them and doesn't smush them at all. Don't think about it.
Just enjoy it. And that's the point.
And then the DC men are getting to where they have, like, Dragon Ball Z syndrome. Like, they don't have 6-packs, they have, like, 12-packs, and then their pectoral muscles spread out to their back.
And create a barrel.
And literally, they're all barrel-chested, but you don't notice how freaky it would actually look if their muscles spread that far to their back, because they're all wearing capes!
Right.
So, it just solves... It just solves it. The problem is solved.
And the art looks lovely. It
does.
Nice to look at.
I'm not going to pretend that I don't have posters of Starfire and Rain, and I do. And I'm not going to pretend that I don't stare at Poison Ivy every time I see her in literally anything, even the super cartoony DC shows, and be like, I love you, please kill me. I like the
environment. Please put me in your tank where you use my DNA in unexplained ways because it's a children's show to make babies that last for one night.
Yep. Please.
I can't believe that was a children's. The Batman the Animated Series. She had kidnapped men that she was making children with.
Yep. Yeah.
I love that show.
Please turn me into one of your biological experiments, or one of your mind slaves, or whatever.
Or whatever you want.
Whatever you want. I'm cool with it. I'm down. I mean, come on. I don't care that you have man abs. I'm kind of into it. I can, I can be flexible. Maybe not as flexible as Harley, but I also won't ever leave you for the Joker.
Or Harley.
Right. Yeah.
Although I heard that the new show is wonderful.
It is. It is.
I want to see it. I don't want another subscription service for only DC.
Yeah.
Though.
It's real
as
dumb.
As much as Facebook thinks I really
and
want it.
Already probably going to be shut down.
Oh, really?
I was just reading an article this morning about how AT&T is probably shutting it down because it's not making a ton of money and they own it, and so they're just like, whatever. I hope that they will spread its IPs out to other things.
I feel like they would make more money if they didn't run their own service that no one wants another one of.
Well, the thing is what I don't understand is apparently AT&T owns the DC Universe streaming service, right? AT&T also owns HBO Now.
So
why don't they just put all the
too?
DC stuff on HBO now? Because let me tell you what, I've seen the Harley Quinn show. It belongs on HBO.
And I want HBO now. I do.
Right? I do.
I'm strongly considering it because they are going to have things that I want. Like, somehow they got Ghibli.
Right. I don't understand that because
I expected that if it ever came to be on Disney Plus.
Well, because Disney is the one who published all of the U.S. Ghibli movies.
Yeah, but apparently they weren't willing to pay what HBO was willing to pay for the streaming rights.
To be fair, watch one episode of Last Week Tonight with John Oliver and realize HBO will any amount of money for anything
if they feel like it's what they want to do.
Like, even a Times Square musical just to tell some random guy to eat shit, okay?
Right. And it makes sense, because, I mean, Disney is all about practicality and churning out with minimum cost, maximum profit. That's Disney.
I mean, yeah, that's the current model. That's true.
And HBO is certainly... They're certainly willing to shell out to receive. I mean, they have.
Yep. I mean,
Amazon's following their model, so.
Yep. Well, and HBO, truthfully, like, they have the money to piss away, and they do it. But the thing is like, Disney is kind of in the position where they're like, we could never make anything else ever again and just live on our park. Huh?
And they'd be fine.
And they'd be fine, right? Just like Nintendo could never make another console, and they'd be fine.
Wow, I dropped my ring and I can't find it.
Oh no, not your wedding ring, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, oh, is that it? Nope, that's a candy wrapper.
But it didn't roll far. It went fall.
Well, guys, I'm gonna keep drawing Ranger searching for his wedding ring. It's precious.
It's my precious.
Yep. But yeah, so I mean,
if you haven't learned by now, I'm a giant Lord of the Rings nerd.
Yeah. And if you were wondering, yes, it is the One Ring.
It would cost too much money.
Gollum's here to help me.
Yes.
It did not roll. I heard it thunk over because that's what One Rings do.
I don't know. They usually roll to the user that.
Well, you know, I guess I could be in denial and it could have wanted to leave me.
I would use its power.
Good Rachel.
I am also a hobbit. So.
That's what I get for fidgeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry my friggin' conversation isn't entertaining enough for you, Ranger.
It is, I fidget.
Oh, did it maybe fidget its way into the vent? Oh, it's found! Huzzah!
Like I said, it didn't roll far. Thank you.
Do you want my fidget cube?
I was gonna find one for him.
Yeah, I have a fidget cube. No, whatever.
I can control myself.
I have a fidget cube because...
Fidget with my straw. Stainless steel straw, by the way.
A vinyl straw, in fact. Highly endorse.
It wasn't several $100s.
Yeah, so, anyway,
But yeah, I mean, it's like, HBO now was like, I don't really want it, and then they're like, it's gonna have Ghibli, and it was like, oh. And then I find out Netflix outside of the U.S. has all the Ghibli films, and
right.
It's like, oh.
How dare you.
Well,
yeah.
You know, HBO now, they play their cards well.
They do. I mean, HBO is a powerhouse of money.
They're smart, too.
And they're intelligent, and they know what sells. And frankly, I'm incredibly glad The Witcher got picked up by Netflix and not them.
Netflix seems to demand less out of what its creators do.
It does, and also HBO has a reputation to live up to.
Right.
And if The Witcher had been passed off to HBO, it would be Game of Thrones, but with Geralt.
Which is not what it should be.
Which is not what it should be, and people already are like, oh, it's just desperately trying to pander to Game of Thrones fans, and I'm like, no, actually, because it's written well. Whoops, my bad.
And Game of Thrones is very linear in its stories.
Yeah.
You know? Like in the books, there were more threads coming together, but in that, there, you know, The books had a lot of problems, and one of them was that he told an entire story arc and then went back to another one. And like
Yep.
Witcher is more comfortable with things like that and not hand holding you with time and all of that.
Yeah, which in the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones seems to just disappear anyway, because Westeros just gets smaller and smaller the more people need to be in another scene with someone else.
Yeah, I
like when Sam or whatever his name is makes what's supposed to be a month-long journey and is just there the next day.
Well, the worst offender for me is the Greyjoy, who with his fleet is everywhere in every episode.
Yep.
It makes these month-long voyages immediately, and I was just watching it with my wife, and I was screaming, and she's like, "What?" And it's like, "Do you realize he's everywhere?" And she said, "Oh yeah, well, yeah, you're right."
Yeah, I could shit on Game of Thrones all day, but I probably shouldn't, so I won't.
I mean, it's entertaining.
Well, the thing is I have, it seems, a habit and approaching an infamy for shitting on creators who are more successful than me, and it's gonna start coming off as jealousy or envy. It's really not. It's just that I'm a highly critical thinker, especially of things that I want to like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm terrified about the Lord of the Rings, or well, I should the Middle Earth show that's going to be coming out. I really so badly want it to be good, but I really so badly wanted the Hobbit movie trilogy to be good, and it was not.
And we really so badly wanted the Shannara Chronicles to... Well, you so badly wanted the Shannara Chronicles to be good. I so badly wanted you to give up on it so we could watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And wasn't I right?
Yes, but I can understand why you would start watching that and be like, oh, this is just horrible MTV TV. And I'm like, but they took the first fantasy IP after Lord of the Rings that I ever loved, and they made it horrible.
Yep. And that's the thing, is like, I watched every episode of it with you. You cannot call me a non-loyal friend, but
it was awful.
Ranger spent a week at my house really sick, okay? And was just living on my couch, and so we were like, we had to find something to do, and I was like, I really like this show, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's hilarious.
I couldn't even pretend it was good through the sickness delirium.
Right? And I was like, it's really funny, and after I had my surgery where I got a bunch of my intestines removed, I watched the first 3 seasons 4 times because I was bedridden for 2 months, and he was like, but the Shannara Chronicles, I really love these books, and I was like, okay, let's try it. And then we saw it was published by MTV, and I was like, are you sure about this? And he was like,
you could have done a good job.
No, I mean, they could have done a good job. The MTV has a lot of money, and I'm like, that's fair. And then the first 2 episodes, it's like, okay, it's not really that good, but you can see where they're making the concessions because they're trying to appeal to teens. That's fine. It'll probably get better as this one character gets introduced, and then they introduced this one character, and it was like, he was cool, but everything surrounding him was so bad, and everything else was so... And it just got worse and worse, and
do you feel pretty
Bannon? And it just... It was so bad. And
there were a lot of memes that came out of it, though.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that, after episode 4, I was done. I was checked out.
But they got John Rhys Davies.
Yeah, well, yeah, they have money. It doesn't mean they have common sense. Gestures to John Oliver.
Yeah.
But... So, that's the thing, is, after episode 4, I was like, dude, please stop torturing yourself. And he was like, no, I have to see it through. It's only 10 episodes. I'm like, no, you're not even halfway, you don't have to see it through. And it got to the point where, the last 3 or 4 episodes, it was just constant coughing and screaming, because he couldn't really scream because he was dying of pneumonia, but, oh gosh, it was painful to watch. Not just the show, but also the suffrage on my best friend's face. And then, finally, when it was over, there was a long rant about how none of it made sense, and what were they even doing, and who is this character that they wrote in, and why is he suddenly a thing, and what do you mean there's a season 2, the book's ended here, and I was like, for real though, you want to watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and we moved on.
And I hope that they don't do that to the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
The Wheel of Time could end up very similarly, but I don't think it will.
I haven't been disappointed by an Amazon original I've watched yet.
And they've made the main character an older lady instead of focusing solely on the young people. And I mean, it's about Rand al'Thor. but they've made this first season about Moiraine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that means it'll be good. It'll be more appealing to adults, and they're not just going to try to make it appealing to kids.
Yeah.
Or teens or whatever.
Whoever the fuck watches MTV.
Yeah, I don't even know. I didn't even know MTV was still around.
Well, MTV isn't around. There's just this weird carcass that still feeds on its name and is like wearing it as a husk. Because the M used to stand for music.
Yeah, they used to show music videos every day.
That actually used to be all they did. And then they showed reality TV shows about music, and then they showed reality TV shows about other things, and then they showed Jersey Shore, and then it was over. It was done.
They made the song Closing Time relevant.
They sure did. An interesting fact about MTV, though. It was, if I am not mistaken, the television channel that ironically was the first television channel to ever play the music video for Video Killed the Radio Star.
Oh, there you go.
So,
that is an interesting story.
You know, full of delicious irony, that one. And that music video was one of the first ones to become hugely popular. And I'm like, you know that you're singing sad about being sad that video is killing radio, and you just made a multi-million-dollar music. Okay, but you know, just one of those things.
TV killed being able to be an ugly president. Yeah.
No, it didn't.
Images are powerful.
Friggin' Donald Trump is ugly as hell.
But he's an attractive TV personality.
Ugh, gross. True, I guess.
He's not physically attractive.
I mean, he is physically an anus dusted in Cheeto dust with a wig.
But I mean, that's what they say, you know.
What you looking for, okay. Yeah.
Images are powerful. And that's a powerful image that you're doing.
I was just about to say images are very powerful. Yeah, I mean, you know, just gonna subliminally, you know, we try to keep this show really not political, but just really quick, I'm just gonna Yep. Anyway, so
not to pair anything there.
Not to pair anything.
If that woman told me to do that, I'd do it.
Right. The thing is like, so, and we've said this, I think, a couple of times on streams, Oriella is definitely not my favorite character in terms of just everything about her. But sadly, a lot of my best art is of Oriella, and she is an incredibly attractive character. And the sad truth is, even though I designed her, and like I'm the one who draws her, and also I'm the one who dislikes her, it's brainwashing. Like, I look at, you know, pictures of oh, well, that didn't work the way I thought it was going to. Hang on. I look at pictures of Oriella, and I'm like, I want to make that my phone background. Like, she's super hot and cool. And then I'm like, wait, no, she's not. She's the worst. And then it just doesn't, like, it's physical attraction. Oh, that didn't work the way I wanted it to because I was drawing on the wrong layer. Okay, well, hang on. Hold on, guys. I was drawing on
layer
the
struggles.
Subliminal messaging layer, and I need to be drawing on a different layer. But, you know, like, it's truly powerful how much sexual attraction can change your brain about people. And
true, though.
Everybody be like, sex doesn't actually sell at cons, and it's just blah, 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 blah.
I know,
and
people
like,
want to say that, but...
Totally wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
it's-
Everybody's a weeb, and they want hot ladies.
Well, it's been proven that sex does not sell things, but you know what it does is it calls attention, and attention sells things.
Yep. And, I don't know. I've bought an awful lot of erotic comics and books and stuff, and I don't read Playboy for the articles. Now, that's not to say that there is no
But you still compare merits of things.
Oh, absolutely.
To actually buy them, but the things that you pay attention to are the things that you buy.
Yes, it's a true story.
Because even on erotic things that you purchase, you buy the one that
is better.
You compare it as best for yourself to others.
Yep, it's a true story.
But if it doesn't, if it doesn't grab your attention, you'll never buy it.
Unless it's super niche and you don't have a lot of options.
That's true. That is very true.
The furry community spends a lot of money on erotic commissions because a lot of the furry community stuff is super niche. And there's nothing wrong with that, but they spend more money than almost anyone else. To artists,
because they can't just find what they're looking for.
Yeah, to artists who are generally not as good as other artists they could have gotten for the price because it is just super, super niche. And, well, actually, furry stuff in general isn't, but when you start getting down to, like, your own personal fantasy, especially involving your own persona, that is where it starts to get super niche. And also, I know a lot of the people in that community, and they're kinky as fuck. So once you get into a lot of kinky niche stuff with personas, then yeah, you
have to pay.
You pay a lot of money for it, and I actually was talking to somebody not too terribly long ago who was like really mad about that, and it wasn't that he didn't. It wasn't that he minded paying money for art because he had commissioned a ton of art and he was a furry and a ton of it was erotic art. It was that he commissioned this person and they did the commission for him and he liked it and it was cool and he followed their artist account and they spent a ton of time shitting on the furry community.
So he felt betrayed.
Yeah, so he felt super betrayed.
Take my money with one hand and slap me with the other.
Yeah, because he realized that basically a lot of artists only do furry art because they know that
they can get money.
The furry community will shell out more money. And they know that, and they look at that as like, oh my gosh, these desperate freaks will pay me anything. And that's
too bad.
That's horrible. I mean, to me, anyway, as an artist, like, I have turned down commissions because I've been like, yeah, nope, I'm not going to draw that. Like, and it's fine to have a line there, and if you don't like furry stuff, then just don't draw it. Don't take advantage of people who will pay you for it, and then turn around and basically call them pathetic, kinky beggars,
or disgusting,
or whatever. And like, and it's just like super horrible. And it made me really mad, like on his behalf. And it really frustrated me, and it made me want to offer him a commission slot, but then I was like, but I'm not super good at furry art, and also I don't have open commission slots, and it just, but, and then, instead I invited him to play D&D with us, and then he was a dickhead to Ranger, and now we don't talk anymore. Well, he was a dickhead to Ranger, and then he asked me out, and I rejected him, and now we really don't talk anymore. But, yeah, so, the art community is a weird thing, and Twitter has made it a lot worse. And I don't want to say that because I've seen a lot of cool, nice people on Twitter, especially in the art community, but also, like, the internet is a really toxic place, and, like, as human beings, there's absolutely no way that you would say the kind of things to people that you say to them on the internet in person.
Like sometimes Bard will just message me and be like, Twitter's really toxic today.
Right?
Like, yeah, man.
I mean, because it is, because I'll like log on to check on, my DMs or whatever's going on and find out that some random poor woman has had somebody send her a message saying like, you think your art is likable? You think your stuff is good? Well, I hate to break this to you, but it isn't. And that's why nobody pledges to your Patreon, and that's why nobody follows you. And so basically just delete your Twitter.
And try again in 2 or 3 years.
And try again in 2 or 3 years when you actually have something to offer the art community.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I mean, that's basically uninstall! Kill yourself! But in art terms.
And couched as trying to be constructive criticism.
Yeah, and the worst part is that they followed this up with, I mean, just take this as healthy criticism. No hate, it's just honesty. No. No. There's so much wrong with that. And this person actually had like 900 followers and nice art, and I followed them and I sent them a message and was like, yo, your art's really nice, and I'm sad I found it through a hate-mongering troll who needs to go back under his bridge and get fucked with a cactus. Because, Twitter is just sometimes so awful to people, and it's awful to artists, but it's even worse for me when I see artists being awful to each other or to like a community that they serve. Like, man, straight up, don't ever let me find somebody somebody taking a commission for like Critical Role fan art and then turning around and calling everybody who plays D&D a nerd with a flabby body who lives in their mom's basement or something, like, they'll catch hands. Alright, sorry guys, I'm zooming in and out all over the place again because I'm looking for the hole in the lines I've drawn here for why my paint bucket won't fill it. Because I'm not going to individually fill every bit of this. Aha. Must be like, no? Aha! I found it, I think. Yeah, Oriella has a lot of hair, and, why? What am I doing wrong? Oh, I don't like individually squibbling every piece of hair. Don't make me do this, Oriella. I'm trying so hard. Fine. We're gonna do it the hard way. Alright. But yeah, anyway, enough about the toxicity of people, because if I keep talking about that, I'm going to start talking about the day I've had, and I'm not going to. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this pin set. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this pin set can be really great, and you mentioned earlier that you don't like how many lines you have to put in the hair.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain the difference between what we normally do for hair and what you're doing with hair here?
Yes, I can.
Because I found it to be interesting.
So, basically, because we're designing them as, like, superhero-y characters, I am doing, well, not my best, right? Okay, this is not my best impression of, a DC Comics character, right? But I decided that it would be a lot more interesting if visually we did something more along the lines of like traditional Western comic book art. Oh, that's Izzy. I thought it was the Trash Goblin. And so, one of the things that especially DC Comics, I mean Marvel does it too, basically everyone does it, but especially DC Comics does, to create kind of their illusion of realism, is they use a lot of heavy ink work and lining. And I'm not going to use anywhere near the extent of that they do, because then no one would ever get these pins, and also they print too small for it to really be useful. But if you ever stop and really look at, especially DC Comics covers, they tend to have a lot of black space in them. And that is because they are using like a heavy inking technique to bring out details that otherwise maybe aren't even there. And like I said, create their own illusion of realism. Hang on, guys. I'm gonna. Oh, I've made a dreadful mistake. Okay, it's not too bad. I gotta fix some things that probably no one else will see. But so, oh well, that didn't work at all, and it got rid of my thing. So I decided to kind of emulate some key points of their style. So if you look at like the extremely heavy lining here around like her clavicle and her boobs and here in her hair, this is a really good example. And I'm gonna pull up. 1 second, guys. I tend to take a more, I guess, Disney-esque approach. Like, I do draw a lot of fluffy hair, but I use a pretty minimal lining, and I instead primarily use shading to bring out the details in things like hair and clothes. I do a lot more lines in clothes than hair usually, especially because the hair I draw is typically so over the top and long and like in a fantasy setting that as you can see, like, here's Oriella. I mean, she's kind of fuzzy because I just dragged the thumbnail over, but this is the like stock Oriella from the website, and this is like the more comic bookified Oriella where her lines are a lot heavier. There is more lining in this one space of her hair right here than there is in like all of the body of her hair here. I personally don't think either is like right or wrong.
Yeah, they're just different styles.
I think that this still very much gets across the point, and especially when you are one single artist who does not get paid. There's a artistic principle called KISS, which is keep it simple, stupid. When you are designing characters, generally speaking, you want to keep your character designs simple because you're going to have to repeat them 100,000 million zillion times.
Right, which would not be possible with this like front cover style
exactly.
Oriella.
And that's one of the reasons why DC Comics covers generally are way more highly detailed than any page is. But a lot of the ways that the pages create that illusion of detail, like as if they were the same as the covers, is by using super heavy inking in areas that might otherwise need more detail. So, like, if you wanted to draw super detailed muscles on, say, Batman, okay, we're going to use Batman because he's Batman, right?
Everyone at least kind of knows what Batman looks like.
Right.
Unlike Squirrel Girl.
Right, so you have, like, let's look at shoulder blades, all right? These are going to be a muscular gentleman's shoulder blades. A kind of minimal detail style tells you, like, these are your shoulder blades, here are your shoulders, whatever. There's going to be some muscle in here. I like drawing men's backs. Anyway, but DC creates this, like, we have to have 8,000 more muscles work for themselves, right? So instead of adding details on the 8,000 more muscles, they will hang on. Well, really, they'll cover this with a cape, but they'll instead just do these super duper sharp, really heavily lined focus areas, essentially.
And it helps increase their aesthetic of being super dark too.
Yes. Which will kind of draw your eye away from the fact that over here where that muscle was that they created, they just kind of went doosh, 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 and there it is, you know? So that's just one of those things, and I'm not shitting on DC. I'm not. I swear. It's just I'm just explaining the visual illusion there. Just like if somebody asked me, like, well, what about squash and stretch in animation principles to create the illusion of life, I would explain that too. To the best of my ability. I'm a terrible animator, and it's something that I've always wanted to do, and you know what? I'm doing a comic instead, and I love that too. So, I have ambitions in animation, but they're not here yet, and that's fine. Yeah.
Hey, but we get enough support on Patreon. Maybe one day there will be a Threads of Fate animation.
Yes.
Which would be rad.
Or animated pages, which
would be so rad.
Animated. My ultimate goal for this. Well, I mean, there's a lot of goals for this comic, right? But like my personal, the thing I want to see most done. Oh wow, she looks so much more naked when she takes away that green.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But the thing I want to see the most, like more than anything else in this comic, and the thing I want to be able to do is minimal animation within pages, because that, to me, that is
makes
like
things pop.
Well, it does, and to me, that's the pinnacle of what webcomics are, and that's what sets them apart from a regular comic. Is the ability
from a print
to take advantage of the fact that your image that you upload can be a GIF, and there are moments in Threads where it would be so appropriate to just have
impactful.
And how dare you? One day you'll all understand that, and you'll want to slap him just as much as I do. But there are moments in Threads, and especially because there is so much like shiny magic, there are things that could be.
Grammatical errors says hello.
Hello, grammatical errors? Is that their...
Grammatical errors is their
screen name? Okay, awesome. Well, hello, grammatical errors, and welcome to the stream.
Yes, we love seeing you around.
Yes, and I try to make as few grammatical errors as possible, but I get put on the spot, and then I panic, and then it's funny because when I'm not streaming, I'm a grammar Nazi, but... At least I'm not a grammar Nazi who's an actual Nazi. Please don't leave. I won't grammar Nazi you. But yeah, so there are, especially with like all the shiny magic and stuff, there are little like tricks that you can do that aren't even necessarily like full moving animation, but just to like essentially create versions of that image with different colors along, say, the lines of magic, will create the illusion of it like glowing and moving, for instance. And stuff like that is so awesome, and I love it. And it's this comic is our child, and like that's what I want my child to grow up to be, right?
Yes, but it would require a bigger
so
budget.
Much time and money.
Yes, essentially we would only have time for that if we were able to dedicate our working time to the comic.
Yes, I would love this to be my day job and my night job and my weekends job instead of just my nights and weekends job. In fact, I might even could make it my day job and not have a nights and weekends job, and wouldn't that be something? But
Grammatical Error says, I forgot my YouTube username is this, laughing, but I am the Low-in-Ear Thirster from Discord.
I
suspected so, but I wasn't sure.
Well, hello.
We're super happy to have you.
I too thirst for Lowen, and it's good to have you here, and good to know that I'm sorry that this is a particularly Oriella thirsting piece, but there will be a similar piece of Lowen. I doubt it will be quite as sexual, because, that's how superheroes do. They don't design their men to be as sexual as their women, but I'll see what I can do. I'm very good at sexualizing things. I'm gonna get crucified.
I'll be right up there with you.
Cool. Thanks. High five.
And maybe with grammatical errors.
Stigmata high five.
Wow. Yeah. Now it's gonna happen.
All right.
Now it's gonna be the Romans.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, we appreciate that you came by. We've talked about a lot of different things so far, but we were just talking about why what differences between our normal Oriella and our comic-fied Oriella.
Yes.
And why they exist and how they create the style and
yep. And
also superhero boobs. I mean, you know.
Yeah, and how they have. Well, anime boobs have their own physics engine, but superhero boobs have their own sets of muscles that are completely different than normal human breast muscles. And
yeah, they're muscles, not ligaments.
Yeah. Because like normal humans have ligaments and then they have muscles above their breasts. Superhero breasts are muscles. I'm pretty sure Wonder Woman's boobs can punch you, and I know Poison Ivy's can. Like, I looked at this picture of Poison Ivy, like, leaning on Batman all sexually, and it's funny, I had the exact same reaction that Ranger did when I sent it to him, and she's in this, like, half black, half green spandex suit, and when I first saw her left boob, which was in black, I thought it was a part of Batman's abs. And then
Batman's abs can reach out and punch you from 6 feet away.
Yeah, and apparently so can Poison Ivy's boobs, which I would love. I was
going to say most people I think would be okay with that.
Yes. Anyway, so yeah, this has been the stream. We're super mature. It's like, is your content acceptable for ages 13 and under? Well, no, but it's written by people ages 13 and under. Well, with the sexual maturity of people ages 13 and under.
It would be a different society if we were aiming at 13. Yeah. Woo. Suffice to say, you can't even look at our Patreon unless you're 18 legally. I mean,
yep.
Sure, people do. Because it doesn't take a genius to know you can just click the I am 18 even if you're not 18.
So, like...
But please don't. Anyone who listens to this, don't do that.
Don't do that. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, when I was a kid, and I first clicked that I am 18 button.
Looking around for the FBI.
I mean, for real. Like, I clicked it, and then I was like, oh my god, and I exited out of everything and panicked. And I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. Oh my god, what's going to happen? And, like, of course I was a kid riddled with anxiety and OCD, right? So I obsessed over it for a week, and nothing happened. So then the next time I was super horny and I clicked that button, I, like, hovered on the page for, like, 5 to 10 minutes, and then I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this, and I backed out of it. And then still nothing happened, and then I realized, wait.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't coincidentally get the FBI virus.
Right?
At the same time.
That's like, we are watching you. I think that didn't come out until, like, the early 2000s, or the late, 2010 era, and I was, older by then. In the 90s, it was all like, here, install these emojis that gave you viruses and stuff. But after that, I kind of realized the internet was my unguarded oyster. And that button didn't mean shit. And I became a happier person. I'm not gonna lie. I still don't know what this layer is, so I'm gonna get rid of it. Anyway, so, not that anyone was wondering, but this isn't actually my typical coloring process. You'll see up here, she's, like, all finished, and then, like, down here, it's all naked base colors. This is because I had to actually...
It's because no one wanted to finish Oriella.
I think I think a lot of people would want to finish Oriella, and if they didn't, she'd murder them.
That's probably true.
But the bust image is actually the pin, and so in order to make sure the pin went out on time, I had to actually create a separate, like, bottom piece of this picture for the pin, and then I now have to go in and, like, make everything else match the top half, which is actually a huge pain and why I don't usually do that. But here we go. Let's start with this gigantic nightmare of cleavage and see what we can do from there.
Not what we usually call it.
What did I say?
A giant nightmare of cleavage.
Oh, wow. Okay. Sorry, I was really in my own headspace there. But it is.
I mean, a little bit. She could kill you with it for sure.
Yeah. Which
is
I'm pretty sure that's her
probably.
superpower.
Yeah. I think it's nipple lasers.
Yeah, that's fair. She does definitely have the most pronounced nips of any of the characters. Lowen doesn't even have nipples.
Yeah. He's our scaly friend.
Yes.
But he shines in the sunlight.
It's a true story. That didn't stop me from making a half-dragon with nipples, but she's a whole different story. Who I also love and would love to make a comic about, but we're not there yet. So
I think there's probably one other project before that one too.
Okay, you're not wrong, but the point is...
But one day, I sure hope we get there.
The point is...
Just so everyone knows, we're called Bissian Comics because we have grand plans.
Yes, it's not the only comic in our future. And this is just... Well, this is the really great starting point and the continuing, ongoing...
It's our strongest story.
Yes. But... It's a very strong story. Anyway, so, yeah, it's so difficult to do these streams and not talk about any kind of spoilers. I can't even. But, you know, yeah, we did not make our business name Threads of Fate or Threads Comics or whatever because we have other projects even beyond Threads planned. But first we got to get Threads funded to where it can live up to its full potential. And I need to not shade that because that is not a separate area. It's just separated because spandex... Oh, I hate spandex.
It's kind of uncomfortable.
It is. And, you know, contrary to popular comic creating belief, it's not flattering.
No, you have to have a perfect body for it to be in any way flattering.
And most people with perfect bodies only wear sections of spandex.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's actually kind of why I distinctly made this, what did I say? It was a nightmarish mound of cleavage, its own section, because I thoroughly object to the idea that spandex clings...
Wear a spandex suit.
That you can wear a spandex suit that clings so tightly to your body that you can see your belly button, but then perfectly shapes around your breasts.
Right, and doesn't squish
and
them.
doesn't squish them at all.
Or move them so they're in weird positions.
Correct.
Because that's what it would do.
Yes.
You would have boobs in different positions.
And so, this part of Oriella's suit is a cutout. And it is supported by her little wingy things. And anyway, I put thoughts of physics into outfit designs, and I have to.
And video games say that's right.
Right.
Physics engines.
Yeah. Look, say what you will about Dead or Alive. I love that franchise.
And it's not for the fighting game.
I read Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball for the articles. Wait, what?
Wait. Dang it. Got my justifications mixed up.
Right? But, yeah. Oh, I shouldn't have deselected that. Okay, I'm gonna fix that. I say too much. I'm gonna stop. But, I'll just replace it with there you go. I forgot what I was gonna say, but it was about boobies and outfits and physics and outfits. Oh, because there's a certain character that I designed for, whose name will remain anonymous, whose outfits get so outlandish at some points that I have to genuinely consider.
And other characters call them out.
Yes, I have to genuinely consider the physics that go into this outfit and whether or not it's possible and how it all attaches.
But they're like, hear me out. It's fabulous.
Yes, and it has to be this way because maybe it would be more functional another way, but then I couldn't rip off half of it in the middle of something and do another thing.
Or, take my helmet off and impress everyone.
Yes. This character's helmet is designed not because...
To be taken off.
Yeah, not because in D&D you need a helmet. They let go of that in, I think, AD&D.
Yes.
No, not because you need a helmet and full plate, but because if you have a helmet, you can pull it off and dramatically shake your hair out of it whenever you need to make a point. And,
I know, I had to explain to the rest of the party, helmets are superfluous, and they no longer are required for the protection from critical hits on armor.
And the really great part is, a distinctly interesting counterpoint to this character's helmet is another character I have, whose outfits I also put a lot of thought into, does not wear a helmet distinctly because it would mess up his hair. Straight up was getting a suit of full plate, and the dwarves who were suiting him were like, oh, what kind of helmet would you like? And he was just like, I can't, it would mess up my hair. And they all, laughed and looked around nervously like, he's kidding, right? And our poor druid had to come over and be like, look, he has his quirks, but he's a competent leader, I swear. And then he ends up getting, flowers in his hair and is like, now I can't wear a helmet because it would crush the flowers. And, so I have two characters who wear full plate. Both of them wear very unique forms of full plate that require a lot of prior thought and processing. And both of them have very distinct opinions on helmets, neither of which are accurate at all. For anyone but, I guess, them.
But how cute would Asha be in full plate?
Well, she'd be very cute. But she would hate it. Well, she'd get over it in about 2 days, I think. Yeah. Ranger's dog is really adorable, but she makes a lot of bad mistakes because she's a puppy. And recently she took to chewing on shirts, so they decided, well, we will put her in the shirts that she has chewed on, and then she will dislike them, right? No, she got used to it real fast and just started running around wearing t-shirts. So that didn't work.
It worked at first.
But it worked at first. But then once she learned how to run in the shirt, it was no longer a deterrent. It only worked because it controlled her zoomies, and she hated that.
If anyone's been following the Twitter, this is the same lovely puppy whom I adore so much, who has been eating paint.
Yes.
And paint bottles.
And glue.
And glue.
Citadel super glue. Very hard to remove from puppies.
She never did that again.
Yep. I don't blame her.
Grammatical error says, looks add to charisma, man. Come on. Absolutely. 100% right.
Right. See? True. There is a person who I know who would agree with that, or who would disagree with that, and they're 100% wrong. And both of these characters I happen to be referring to are leader characters who need a high charisma score for their leadership score. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
Oh, somebody got the vomit toy. I heard it rolling around, and I think it was Asha. She's going to eat it.
She can't. She's tried.
Oh, wow. It's amazing.
Make sure.
Because she's got powerful jaws.
Kitty probably bats her when she does.
Mm-hmm.
That might be why.
Sorry. There's a kitty toy that rolls around and sounds exactly like someone's puking when it's rolling around, and I heard its distinct war cry as the puppy ran down the hall.
So Sir Peter says, "Hello." Oh no, not the glue.
Yeah, it was the glue. And it wasn't the plastic glue that only actually works on binding plastic and is pretty harmless to skin. It was the super glue. And hello, Sir Peter. It's good to have you. We are working on...
Lovely spot to come in on.
Yeah. a lovely spot to come in on, indeed. In case you're just now joining us, I still have the emotional maturity of a 13-year-old. That hasn't changed since 2019.
That was so long ago.
I was so young and full of hope.
And all the bands from when we were young are dead.
Oh my gosh. Listen, okay, so we're talking to Ranger's wife, and their daughter was in the room, and we were talking about some band. I don't remember what, but it was popular when we were in high school. And she just looks up and she's like, "Oh, that's cool. Are they still alive?" Like,
yes!
Yes, they are, actually. Believe it or not, I didn't go to high school in the Mesozoic era. Should get a pen.
Probably a kitty. I don't know. Animals.
Animals.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Oh no. Alright, sorry guys, I've discovered an error.
Squash it.
Well, I'm gonna try. It's very hard to color in this shade of gray, particularly against this color of background. But, that's what I'm doing, because I like to do things the hard way. The easy way is against corporate policy.
Aren't we corporate?
Yes.
Okay.
We are now corporate. Corporate policy doesn't change.
We haven't sold out yet.
No, absolutely not. And I hope we never do.
I can't imagine.
The amount of money you would have to give me to hand over Cheshire is inconceivable.
I mean, Disney has it, but they're not going to.
No, because they would take one look at this and be like, "Nope. HBO has it, and they might," but I'd be like, no. I'm sorry, HBO. I
know what you do.
I know what you do. I already do it. No. Actually, I mean, to be honest, if there was ever going to be somebody who would do a live-action adaptation series of Threads of Fate, it would almost have to be HBO or Starz. Because there is a lot of gore, and there is sexual stuff. But the thing is, they would magnify it 1,000 times.
Yeah. Well,
and they would butcher half the story.
Our goal is to do it the way it will be done, that people would do it. It would happen to people. They would do it to shock and increase ratings.
Yes.
And entertain.
And the truth of the matter is that sexuality is a part of the human experience. I'm very comfortable with that.
And to avoid it is to lessen the human experience.
Yes, and to avoid it is stupid.
Well, and yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, okay?
You can't tell me that people are in high-octane situations constantly saving each other's lives, doing things for each other that are, incredible and earth-shattering, and that they don't form bonds that include love.
Or include lust.
Or include lust.
Okay, because I got news for you. If you've looked at the last page, if I were Mimi, waking up from near death with that standing over me, what else would I be thinking? Like, oh, I'm glad I'm not dead, but oh my goodness. Like, I mean, really, Oriella is beautiful. And basically the whole cast is beautiful, okay? And the truth of the matter is, like, it's just a psychological fact that if you go through danger or high, like, anxiety or high pressure situations, your body turns to more sexual thoughts.
Well, yeah, your mind actually has been proven to misinterpret the physical reactions as
sexual.
As sexual.
Yep.
It's been shown to happen, and I mean, but also the things that they do for each other are not what
average people do for each other. You don't...
Or even people, even if they could, it's not stuff you would do.
You don't meet this woman at the freaking supermarket, okay?
No.
You don't. I mean, you meet her at the superhero market, I guess, technically, wherever they shop, but...
No, maybe you meet Shale, you don't meet Oriella.
That's true. But yeah, you don't... That's the thing. It's
it's not a racist remark that I just realized it could be taken as. Is that in their friendship dynamic, Shale does all the heavy lifting.
Does everything.
Yeah.
Because she's so much more competent than Oriella. Like, Oriella is good at basically two things, and it's being really hot, and it's healing magic. And Shale is good at everything else.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, guys. Sorry, I'm recovering from a cold. Sort of recovering, anyway. But yeah, so... The thing is like... And we haven't even gotten into a lot of the meat of distress and things that these characters go through, but... And it's hard to discuss without spoilers, of course, but there's a moment, especially between two characters who I'm not going to name because spoilers. There's a couple of moments, even early in the story, that are incredibly pivotal that that are just like, this one moment creates the entire ground of their relationship. And this happens between multiple characters, but two I won't say couples, but two relationships, I can say, that happens very, very distinctly because they're like hugely ground shaking, like traumatic, weird, crazy, over the top moments that just, like, you can't walk away from that and not be a different person and not look at the person who was involved in it differently.
Yeah. As Sir Peter says, what? People getting the hots for each other after experiencing high-octane situations? Blasphemy.
Right. Basically. I mean, everything in this comic is blasphemy by some standards, but I'm alright with it. Sir Peter's seen some of my other not safe for work writing and such, and I think he knows that I'm a very blasphemous person, but that's okay. Because blasphemy, where appropriate, and not destroying a storyline for the sake of blasphemy, is great.
Or just to shock your viewers.
Yes.
When it doesn't actually make sense for the characters, but you know the dynamic of your audience and that you can shock them with it.
Yep. Not that I'm calling out any in particular show or studio that we were just talking about. That's especially bad about that. HBO.
But I mean, like, you know, it's interesting how in certain contexts things can change so much.
Yes.
Like, if
like if someone took that comment about Shale out of context, it would change a lot.
Well, yeah, but what I was just going to say is, you know, you have to draw boobs on a woman to draw a woman, right? But if, like, say you were to someone were watching the stream and their mom walked in, when you were zoomed up on a boob, they would not...
Right.
They would be like, what are you watching?
Or how many times I've zoomed in on her, oh gosh, what did he call them? Nubbly bits the other day? Yeah, the amount of times I've zoomed in on Oriole's crotch is not something that your mom would find wholesome, I'm sure. Or mine. She doesn't watch the streams. I'm okay with that. I want to still be the favorite child. But yeah, I mean, truth of the matter is, like, I enjoy stories that include sexuality and relationships where they belong. I even enjoy some stories that include sexuality where it doesn't belong, necessarily. But
Grammatical Errors asks, what about flat women? Some women have small hills or no hills.
This is true. I am totes both, all boobs. I love all boobs.
Yes.
Even the tiny from the tiniest boobs to the biggest, most face-smothering boobs. The cast has a pretty wide range of boob size. It's not always apparent because, like, especially Nerida is so large. She's 7 foot tall, 300 some odd pounds, 400 maybe. But she wears that really, like, clunky covering leather armor that doesn't show off her boobs at all. And I mean, realistically speaking, because she's such a huge person, Nerida is probably like an H cup, right? Versus Shale is like maybe a B. I mean, she's, well, maybe a C. And Mimi actually has remarkably small breasts as well, but you just never see them because she's wearing full plate armor. It just kind of depends. There will be other characters later who also show off a much wider range of breast sizes.
And I can attest that we love all of them from small to tall.
Yes, and
we're all about boobs of all kinds.
Yeah, I'm all about just about everything of all kinds. If I'm being perfectly honest, there are very few body parts that someone can sexualize that I don't understand. Basically, it's like eyes. I can't get behind eye fetishes, not because I don't think that eyes can be incredibly attractive, because they can, but once eye fetishes get any further than I just want to stare into their eyes because they're incredibly attractive and hypnotizing, they become dangerous and painful.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things, but it's just like, people say that elf ears are highly fetishized now, and I'm like, well, maybe they are, but I think they're super hot, so that's fine. Like,
yeah, and I mean, it's like,
but also if you think about in a fantasy setting, like, okay, why wouldn't they be?
Right.
Why wouldn't...
It's the easiest way to tell them apart.
Right. Well, and it's like, if you are...
Grammatical error says, oh boy, yes, succulent toes.
Right? But that's the thing is, look at an everyday human's interactions and kinks and fetishes. Somebody's super into feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't you have somebody who's super into, like, harpy claws?
Right.
Why wouldn't you have somebody who
Especially because they are the literal definition of exotic. They do not exist in your race.
Exactly. So it's an interesting thing to explore, especially in fantasy settings. As a human being who might be ace or asexual, maybe you just don't find other humans attractive. In a fantasy setting, that might be different for you.
Yeah, maybe Liontars do it.
Yeah, maybe you don't find humans attractive, but dragons, though. I mean, I follow an artist called Robots and Lace, who is a really wonderful artist who does a lot of cyborg and, like, human robot erotic art. And somebody asked them, like, so what's up with you and robots? And their response was that they were ace, and so they don't really find humans particularly attractive, but something about robots, maybe it was the lack of human features, just always did it for them, right? So by that same logic, it makes perfect sense that in a fantasy setting, maybe you don't find your own race attractive. And of course you would fetishize fae wings or fae ears or something just as easily as you might fetishize women's boobs or somebody's toes, I get so caught up in conversations about sex that I forget I'm supposed to be drawing. So, but I personally really like exploring possibilities like that.
In a
especially
fantasy setting,
settings.
you're only limited by what you're comfortable with.
Yes, 100%. And like when you think about like merfolk, you know? I mean, merfolk have been fetishized and loved by humans as long as there have been men at sea, and they don't exist.
Right.
In a world where they exist, like...
Absolutely would be.
You know, I mean, really, especially in the D&D setting where they are large and powerful, you get not only the beautiful siren, but also the woman who can crush you. And it's like, yes! You know, so it's just one of those things where, like, basically, and frankly, there is something to be said for maybe you're limited also by, like, morality, you know, because that gets really hazy in a fantasy setting.
And compatibility.
Because, right?
Like, I mean, we see all across species, you know, penises and vaginas.
Right.
But they're in a fantasy setting. I mean, there could be way more than that.
Well, and I actually oftentimes like to draw dragons or shark folk or things like that with, like, more than one penis, because reptiles and fish tend to have more than one penis. And, you know, let's say you're an adventurous woman who can handle one dragon penis. You might not be able to handle two.
That's true. Kind of blew a character's mind one time with that his ultimate bad dragon might have an extra bad dragon.
Right? And, you know, it, you know, that's something that's really fun and interesting for me, but, like, also there's, like, there's a gray area that you enter, especially in a fantasy setting, with especially creatures like centaurs, right? So I personally think if the creature is sapient and consenting, go for it, man. And I'm not going to pretend that if it had been my druid that ran into the stag god, I wouldn't have had sex with the stag god. But it wasn't my druid; it was someone else's druid. But, you know.
Grammatical error says, but the dragon peen and the DPing.
Right? I mean, I agree with you, but there might be some people for whom that's too much.
Yep. It's uncomfortable or scary or
they're like, I'm going to get crushed to death.
Or they just can't even, like,
or they
for
can't.
The player, they just can't even conceptualize it.
Yep.
You know, I mean, do have baby steps.
Yeah, we have a player who struggles with conceptualizing a lot of that stuff. And it's funny when he comes to the realization.
Like, I don't want to be involved in those campaigns, and that's fair. You know?
Yeah,
that's just fine.
Yep. Oh, sneezy kitty. But yeah, I'm not sure how much more heavy shading I want to apply to her abs. I'm just kind of at this point dicking around.
It's our last 10 minutes. If anyone has any questions or anything they want to comment before we wrap up, now would be the time to do it.
Yeah. And once again, quick reminder, PowerCon coming up in a few weeks. Ranger will be there, and AgamaCon coming up the week before that. We will both be there.
And anyone who ups their pledge, who pledges to our Patreon or ups their pledge, will get a free additional con-specific pin to go with it.
Yes, and there will be 2 to choose from, one for PowerCon and one for AgamaCon.
Yep, and we'll have those, there will be a blog post on the website detailing all of that soon.
Yes.
But yes, that's in addition to all normal benefits and rewards.
Yeah. So yeah, but if anybody has any questions for either of us, let me know. I'm just doodling away at this point on this lovely lady. There's gonna be so much hair coloring.
We'll have our collages and prints and stickers.
Yes.
And magnet.
Love stickers.
All of that for sale at our con.
Do we have more than one magnet, or do we just have the Tranithraxis magnet?
Just have the Tranithraxis magnet.
Well, or the big blood dragon magnet. Which is a cool magnet.
Well, it's not necessarily a spoiler yet.
Yep. But yeah, so we have some cool merch, and hopefully, maybe can't make any promises because I'm trying so hard, but like day jobs and stuff. We will have this and possibly other members of the cast in this style available as prints for PowerCon, and almost certainly we will have them for HeroesCon in June. Hopefully of the entire cast for HeroesCon.
We're very excited for HeroesCon. It's the
yes,
by far and away we spend more on that than I think every other con we have paid to visit.
It is the largest con we will ever have gone to,
and probably ever will for some time.
Yes, and it comes highly recommended by several of my friends who are in the con circuits all the time.
So we hope lots of people.
It's going to be really cool, and we're going to meet lots of new people like we did and continue to do. And yeah, I mean, because this comic is our baby, and like we love you guys, and we always want there to be more of you guys.
Grammatical Error says, Lowenir prints, please.
Well, there is one Lowenir print that is available. That is his art from the website, but I tippy top promise.
Is that 4x6 or 5x7?
I believe it's a 4x6 on a 5x7 map.
Yes, that's right.
I tippy top promise that there will be a hero stylized Lowenir for at least HeroesCon, and we are hoping at some point to be able to set up an option on our Discord.
But
to
for
sell
now, Grammatical Errors, since you're a patron, message me with what you would like on the Patreon, and I can hook you up.
Yeah.
He says, "A Lowenir pinup, please."
A Lowenir pinup. All right, I'll do my best. I have a lot on my plate right this minute, but like I said, I am hoping to do some more thirst-quenching work in the upcoming future of multiple members of the cast, but especially of Lowen, because, well, he's the most requested, frankly.
So far, yeah.
And that makes me sad because I want to draw sexy stuff of Alex, but it's okay. Yeah, I love Lowenir too. But yeah, so we'll see what we can do, and we will see you guys next stream, and hopefully next stream we'll be working on like the next hero character. But this is Oriella, and she will hopefully have a print, and she will be one of the pins that we're doing this month. And we will have... Eventually we'll be doing, I think, the whole cast as heroes, as prints, but I don't know if it'll be next month or if we'll finish the set in June for HeroesCon. I don't know 100% if we discussed that or not, but the hope is that we will have a full set of these as pins as well.
Heroes.
Yeah. So yeah, good stuff, guys, and thank you so much for joining us. It's good to stream again. We were out for so long between health issues and technical issues, so we will see you next time, and you can always message us on Discord or the Patreon if you have